Here's our friend John Shannon, the most famous man from Oliver, British Columbia, the former executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada's podcast 100% Hockey. And I can attest, pretty good golfer, too, after a round a couple of weekends ago. How are you, John?
Good. Yeah, I'm doing fine. Still hitting the ball. So it's all good. By the way, the people at Grey Wolf and the people at Copper Point in Invermere are great hosts. So.
You were out that way, were you? Good for you.
Yeah, no.
Beautiful golf courses.
And not only that, unbelievable weather last week. Just spectacular in that part of the world.
You were back here playing golf again? Jeez.
He goes on a junket every year.
Wow.
They used to go to Nova Scotia, but now they're going west. They've seen the light.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good. It was really good. Just back in Ontario yesterday. So.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Okay.
John, let's start with the news of the day. JT Miller, Rangers captain. How did that strike you?
Well, Chris Drury's trying to set a stage, I guess, and we always thought he was captain material. He just, you wonder on so many different levels of what they're trying to do in New York. So from that perspective, I did feel it. I did see it was rather interesting, but I think it also speaks to what the Rangers are going through. So people in Vancouver should not take it personally that JT Miller is the captain of the New York Rangers.
I don't think that's
Sorry,
the
John,
emotion.
I have to remove my fist from my mouth.
I know.
And why is it that everybody smirks when they presented with this fact from the Rangers today? John wanted to begin his answer, but first he had a little smirk and a laugh to himself before getting into the actual oral part.
When I saw the news, I knew I was coming on with you guys.
You say he's captain's material. He has captain's material in him, but he's got other stuff too.
That's right,
John. And this is coming from an organization that had Jacob Trouba recently, and he was not exactly a shrinking violet either.
Nope.
You just wonder if they would want to try a different volume sort of thing, is what I was thinking.
Yeah, I understand that, but at the same time, Chris Drury is always thinking outside the box. He's a different guy than most traditional general managers, and I think that in order to try to get his message through, that I think it makes some sense that an outspoken guy like JT Miller will be the new captain. You're right about Trouba. But at the same time, obviously, Drury and Trouba weren't on the same page. And so you have to wonder what kind of conversations Chris Drury did have and Mike Sullivan did have with JT Miller to put him in this position. Miller and Sullivan have an excellent relationship from the U.S. national team. And so this actually might make some sense for the Rangers. It's very strange to see a captain be put in a position like Miller was when you consider he played less than half a season with the Rangers this time. But, it's JT Miller, and he is outspoken, and he does have balls. And, perhaps that's what the Rangers need.
Well, and that room has to heal, too.
Well, that's right,
John? Like they were some upset about the trade of Trouba. I mean, they went to Zibanejad to ask him to move his nose. Like, there were a lot of players who were not too fond of management last season.
No, you're right. But now we know that in many ways, this is going to be a hard-line team. And Miller's going to set a tone. And perhaps some of the players won't like the tone, but perhaps more will. They had to change something in New York, and this is part of the makeover. And Chris Drury's trying to make over a team that for the longest time was pretty effective, but certainly it appears that it's going a little bit of a different direction now.
I'll be the first to admit I don't know Adam Fox from Adam. But what I do know is he's a 27-year-old Norris Trophy winner who wore an A last year for the Rangers. I'm just, why wouldn't you go with your best player? who has been there for a while and presumably will be there for a while yet.
I mean, you're not wrong, but obviously that the people in Terrytown, which is where their practice facility is, and at the Garden, think that things need to change, and there needs to be a hard driving message put out there, and the hard driving message will be now delivered in the room by a guy that loves to deliver hard driving messages in JT Miller.
To say the least. So basically, Blake used this phrase with me one time, John. It remains one of the highlights of our tenure. You're not wrong. You're just not as right as me. Huh?
Well,
If the shoe fits.
Some would say that's the theme of this show. Anyways.
You know Jim Rutherford well. Did he wake up, see this news, and, in his most solitary moment go, oh, God, I don't need this in my life right now? Or does he truly, absolutely not give a rat's ass?
Oh, I don't think he cares now. The Canucks have their own issues to deal with. The Canucks, the last thing he needs to be worried about is a team they'll see twice this year. And so I think that, you've got to be more concerned about the chemistry on your own club. You've got to be asking some questions. Hopefully you have made enough change and given people enough responsibility in order to try to, hopefully you can only think that the waters will be smoother in Vancouver this year without JT around and with the coaching staff a little more settled.
Well, while we're on the topic of hockey man,
I just want to first please tell me there is some sort of Canucks theme night on October 28th when the Rangers are in town here as the visitors. I need JT Miller for a ceremonial face-off with Quinn Hughes at center ice at the red carpet.
I thought you were going to say everybody dressed up as various versions of JT Miller because it is Halloween time.
Oh, Halloween.
Well. So we could do that.
Perfect.
Everybody dress as JT Miller.
Perfect.
For the quote-unquote hockey man, the Rangers get a big tick in the pro column because, they're going with the old school sort of hockey approach there with the JT Miller kind of captain. On the other side, the progressives, John, they're run amok on Long Island. Lou Lamoriello checks out for one season, and they've all got beards.
And they've gone hippie.
They are all wearing beards. They're at the golf tournament, and if there was a clean-shaven face, the cameras did not find it, John.
Well, hold on, guys. Camp hasn't started yet.
This is true.
That's an official company event, though. He would be very disappointed.
No. Lou's a hard and fast guy. I know Lou well enough that there would be timelines. So I will reserve judgment.
Okay.
I will reserve until next Tuesday. How's that, Blake?
We once asked our buddy Frank Corrado about that when Lou was in Toronto and about the rule. And Frank said, well, first of all, Lou would tell you, it's not a rule.
Right.
It's an expectation.
Yeah, well, in fact, we had Zach Parise on our show last Friday and got into a great discussion about, the loyalty that Lou gets from players. And he just, as a matter of fact, and he said, of course, and there's the rules, and you can't have facial hair. And I mean, it was just as a matter of fact for him. And quite funnily enough, I asked him, so if the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame was like Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame, and you had to choose a hat to wear, would you choose the Wild or would you choose the Devils? And he said, no, I'd choose the Devils because I wouldn't want the phone call from Lou.
Right.
That's right.
Fear.
Good answer. John, let's bring you back home here to the Vancouver Canucks because we missed you last week. No, you were traveling. And boy, this Quinn Hughes file is just, it is moving. It is absolutely moving. Like, he can't say yes when asked if there's any chance he's going to sign as a Vancouver Canuck. Biz has all the Hughes brothers in New York with the Rangers right now.
He's convinced. He's like, there's no chance he's staying.
I mean,
that's from Biz.
I mean, for the Canuck fan, it's almost like this is becoming a prophecy that too many people are speaking it into existence. What's your take on everything you've heard and haven't heard about Quinn Hughes and the Vancouver Canucks over the last fortnight?
Paul has an interesting take, and he didn't beat me to the Rangers, but I say this is not the Quinn Hughes file. This is the Hughes file. I do think at times it might be bigger than Quinn. That said,
what do you mean by that, John?
Well, I think that we're still figuring out what's going on with Luke, with his new contract. What's going on there? People are already started the countdown at Jack's contract for 4 more years. So I think that there's the smoke that suggests that they want to play together is never going to really die until they all sign long-term deals with their existing clubs, or they actually do play together. I mean, so that's, and we can wait and see. Here's the one thing I would say. I truly would say it. Enjoy this year with Quinn Hughes. He's here for 2 years. We had this very same discussion about Bo. We had this very same discussion about JT Miller years back, saying, guys, let's just enjoy it for what it is now. The sky is falling. Might be a story in Minnesota with Kaprizov, but the sky is falling shouldn't be the story in Vancouver with Quinn Hughes for the 25-26 season. It shouldn't be. They should be just the enjoyment. He can't sign in Vancouver yet anyway. So let's just enjoy 25-26 with one of the best defensemen in the game, running the power play, playing in front of some really good goaltending, and then we'll have this discussion perhaps a year from now. But right now, there's nothing. The Canucks aren't trading Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes is going to be the captain of the team for this season. Can't we just enjoy it? Seriously, can't we?
The answer is probably not. Honestly, probably not. Because
Blake, what do you want to do with him right now? What do you want to do with him?
I'm not saying there's an obvious solution here, John. I'm just saying if you're asking people to postpone.
A solution. The solution is test the market and see if somebody gives you a Godfather offer. Because as you lay it out, Shannon, if he's gone anyways, then you're Rutherford Alvin. You have a responsibility of the organization to look after its best long-term interests. And if that means trading Quinn Hughes right now because someone's giving you sun moves, stars, you have to consider doing that.
I'm not touching Quinn Hughes, at least. I'm not even having the discussion. I'm not making the phone call, at least until next July 2nd, when I finally get a message that I can't sign him long-term. But I'm going to enjoy the year with a guy who probably will be a finalist for the Norris Trophy next season.
What about the argument, though, that you're going to get more for Quinn Hughes now than you will on July 2nd?
I'm not necessarily sure you can, because what you're going to be able to do on July 2nd is create a bidding war, if that is in fact the case. If that is in fact the case.
Yeah, we're establishing a pro and con list here. The flip side of that is an acquiring team. Like, if you're Team X, why am I trading and giving you sun, moon, and stars for Quinn Hughes? Why am I getting into a bidding war when I only have him for a year because I'm convinced that he's going to leave my team for the Devils too?
Well, because we are starting to see in the National Hockey League, like we see in the NBA, we see sign and trades. We're seeing that world change. Who would have? I mean, Mitch Marner, got traded to the Vegas Golden Knights before he signed there in order to get that extra year. Those types of things are going to happen, I think, and more in the future when there's more liberal dollars to be spread around for high quality players. So again, this is a discussion for July of 2026, not 2025. That's all I'm saying.
And we should note that as we know with the new CBA, he's going to be eligible to sign the 8-year deal in Vancouver and
be the last one.
Yeah, exactly, because we're limiting terms.
And it's funny
term
to
lengths
say
in the new
that
CBA.
I had 2 agents tell me last week that 7-year thing is going to bother players. And, even though 7 years is a heck of a long time in the National Hockey League, heck of a long time, but that 8th year is going to be attractive to some guys.
Yep. Well, I mean, they agreed to it. There's not no, but here
but they got to wear flip flops to the game.
Well, that's it. That's it. And we should know. We saw this yesterday. Good on the players for looking after their own. The retired who didn't play in an era of huge money, right, and are also going to get some coverage and some benefits out of this new CBA. That part I commend them for. Because we hear too many sad stories about retired hockey players these days, John.
Matt, it is it's the partnership between the players and the league created that fund. Each contributed the same amount of money, but really the catalyst for it all was the Alumni Association. And you have to give Glenn Healy and his people a great deal of credit for, banging the drums hard enough, long enough in order to get everything done. When Don Fear was running the association, they gained no traction. But Marty Walsh and his people, Marty Walsh and Ron Hainsey, have seen the light. I think the league actually saw the light beforehand. But to get those 4 people, Daly and Bettman, Hainsey and Walsh, on the same page, Glenn Healy and his group deserve a ton of credit.
Yep, they do. And lastly, from me, because we haven't talked to you in a couple of weeks, we've lost a couple of Titans who shaped the game of hockey in the last fortnight. Ken Dryden and Bob Goodenow. A word or two about both.
Well, Ken, I believe Ken's influence really should probably be more reflective of him post-career. He only played 8 seasons in the National Hockey League, did win 6 Stanley Cups, but 8 years as a player. But I think that the calmness that he created in Toronto, which went through its own sex scandal in 1996 and 1997 with the Gordon Stuckless stuff at Maple Leaf Gardens. I think Ken did an excellent job of doing that. He transitioned this hockey club from the old Gardens to then Air Canada Centre seamlessly. And I also think that his work in the last 15 years in and around CTE will become what he is known for. And, probably the greatest hockey book ever written in 1983 being The Game. I've had friends that have read it 20, 25 times and still think they get something out of it. And Bob Goodenow, listen, I got to know Bob very well. I think we're in shock that he passed away. He was at an event last Tuesday. So the weekend passing was a shock to a great many people. And I don't think, again, here's a guy that, took a really troubled group, the Players Association, in transition out of the Alan Eagleson era and galvanized them and made them feel that they were one. And whether it was a salary disclosure.
That's an unbelievable story. I saw Ray tweeting about this. Who'd have thought making your salaries public would make salaries go up? But it did.
Well, it's funny because Ken Dryden was one who didn't play for a year because he had found out what the other 6 best goalies in the league were making, and who just said, "I want to be paid accordingly."
Yeah.
And he, he sat out a year in articles in Toronto for that. I do think, though, as a group, I think that Bob challenged the players and players were used to be happy in the old days of getting a $10 increase to the per diem. But Bob created a marketing wing for the Players Association. So there ended up being a war chest that allowed them. And as I remind everybody, there was one strike in 1992, a strike. It was for 10 days that Bob led. But the rest of the labor disputes were decided to be done by the league. And those were lockouts. They weren't strikes. And they were done because Bob challenged the norm. Bob challenged the establishment, and the players were better for it.
Yep. Brilliant guy Bob Goodenow was. And boy, if he held the line in 04, 05, who knows where salaries would have gone immediately thereafter. John, awesome stuff. Thank you for this. Catch up next week.
Cheers, boys.